The crack of my rifle echoed across our quiet Texas ranch as the HOA intruder crumpled to the ground, clutching her bleeding shoulder. She'd stormed past our fences, crowbar raised, screaming threats at my terrified wife and kids, our sanctuary shattered in an instant. What started as petty letters demanding we bow to their absurd rules had exploded into a nightmare of harassment, sabotage, and now this desperate act of self-defense. As sirens wailed closer, I wondered, would the law see me as a protector or a criminal? Stick around to uncover the twisted conspiracy that nearly destroyed my family. The sun dipped low over Elmswood, Texas, painting the rolling hills in shades of gold as our two-story farmhouse stood proudly at the heart of our 50-acre ranch. My wife, Sarah, hummed softly in the kitchen, her hands dusted with flour from baking her Sunday blueberry pies, their sweet aroma wafting through open windows. Our kids, Ethan 8 and Lily 5, chased each other through the wildflower-dotted fields, their laughter mixing with the rustle of wind through ancient oaks. I leaned against the porch railing, a cold lemonade in hand, watching Ethan climb the treehouse we'd spent months building together, hammer by hammer, nail by nail. This was our escape, a haven we'd dreamed of for years, far from the suffocating rules of suburban life. We'd left the city behind, trading honking traffic and cookie-cutter lawns for open skies and the freedom to live on our terms. The ranch was our fresh start, purchased outright with every penny of our savings. The deed was clear, no homeowners association, no petty regulations, just us and the land. Mornings began with the smell of dew-soaked grass, afternoons with the kids racing barefoot to the creek, and evenings under a blanket of stars, telling ghost stories by a crackling campfire. Sarah would smile, her eyes soft, saying this was the life she'd always wanted for our family. I felt the same, a quiet pride in building something real, something ours. But there was a shadow creeping in, so subtle we barely noticed at first. A plain envelope arrived one morning, tucked into our mailbox with no return address. Its typed words were cold: remove livestock within 14 days per HOA code. I chuckled, tossing it into the trash. Our ranch wasn't part of any HO it couldn't be. Yet, as I glanced at the distant gated community down the road, its manicured lawns gleaming unnaturally, a faint unease stirred. Something told me this wasn't a mistake. Something was coming. The first letter was just the beginning, a spark that ignited a fire we couldn't yet see. After tossing that initial HOA notice into the trash, I figured it was a clerical error. Some overzealous paper pusher mixing up addresses. Our ranch in Elmswood, Texas stood alone, a world apart from the gated community a mile down the road with its cookie-cutter mansions and perfectly trimmed hedges. But a week later, another envelope arrived, its tone sharper, colder. Failure to comply with livestock removal will result in a $1,000 fine and potential lien on your property. My laughter faded. Sarah's brow furrowed as she read it over my shoulder, her fingers tightening on the kitchen counter. "Mark, this doesn't make sense," she whispered. "We're not in their HOA." I nodded, but a knot formed in my gut. This wasn't a mistake anymore. I called the HOA office expecting a quick fix. The woman on the line sighed, her voice dripping with practiced boredom. "If your property uses our access road, you're under our jurisdiction," she said. I gripped the phone tighter. "That road's private. My deed proves it." She didn't budge. "We'll follow up," she snapped and hung up. Follow up? The audacity of it burned. Our driveway was ours, carved out in the deed like a sacred promise. I pulled out the land papers, spreading them across the dining table, tracing every line to confirm what I already knew. Our ranch was free from their clutches. Still, the call left a sour taste, like the first whiff of a storm brewing. Days passed quietly, and I dared to hope they'd backed off. Then Ethan came running inside, his face pale, eyes wide. "Dad, there's a woman outside taking pictures." I bolted to the porch, heart pounding. A short, stocky woman with a clipboard stood by our barn, snapping photos like she owned the place. Her hair was pulled tight, her lips curled in a smug half-smile. "Hey!" I shouted, striding toward her. "This is private property." She barely glanced up. "Compliance inspection," she said, as if I were a child throwing a tantrum. "Get off my land," I growled, stepping closer. She rolled her eyes, took one last photo of my truck's license plate, and sauntered off, her heels clicking on the gravel. That night, I added deadbolts to every door. Sarah noticed my tension. Who was she, Mark? I didn't know yet, but I felt it. Trouble was circling like vultures. The next morning, bright pink notices were taped to our gate, flapping in the wind. Final warning, remove unauthorized structures. Fines exceed $3,000. Unauthorized structures? Our barn had stood for decades, older than the HOA itself. Sarah's face drained of color as she read the notice, her voice trembling. What if they try to take the ranch? I pulled her close, promising we'd fight, but her fear mirrored my own. I called a lawyer, Mr. Jensen, a no-nonsense man with a reputation for cutting through red tape. He pored over our deed in his cluttered office, muttering legal terms under his breath. You're in the clear, he said finally, adjusting his glasses. Your land's exempt from their rules, but these HOAs don't play fair. They'll harass, fine, scare you, anything to bleed you dry. His warning hung heavy as I drove home, the horizon darkening with clouds. A week later, I returned from the feed store to find a for sale sign staked in our front yard. Its bold letters screaming, "Foreclosure pending HOA property reclaim." Ethan saw it first, his small voice breaking. Dad, are we losing our home? My blood boiled. I yanked the sign out, nearly snapping the wood in half. Sarah's hands shook as she hugged Ethan. How far will they go, Mark? She whispered. I didn't answer, but I moved my rifle from the safe to the coat closet by the front door. That night, an anonymous text buzzed my phone. You've been warned. My jaw clenched. This wasn't just about fines anymore. Weeks of eerie silence followed, like the calm before a tornado. Sarah thought they'd given up, but I wasn't fooled. I installed security cameras, their red lights blinking like sentinels in the dark. One warm Saturday evening, as popcorn popped for family movie night and Lily danced in her pajamas, the power cut out. The house plunged into darkness. Grabbing a flashlight, I checked the breaker box outside. My stomach dropped, wires dangled, ripped clean from the panel. Fresh tire tracks snaked toward the back gate. Someone had been here on our land in the dark. I told Sarah to keep the kids inside after sunset. Gus, our golden retriever, stayed close, his ears pricked for danger. The harassment escalated. One morning, we found our chicken coop vandalized, feathers scattered, and 3 hens missing. A plastic HOA badge was jammed into the fence post, a mocking taunt. Sarah's eyes filled with tears as she swept up the mess. Why us? She asked. I had no answer, only a growing fire in my chest. Jensen suggested reporting it, but without clear evidence, the sheriff's hands were tied. I doubled the cameras, added motion lights, and started night patrols, rifle slung over my shoulder. The kids thought it was a game, but their innocence only sharpened my resolve. This was our dream, and no bully would steal it. Then came the lawsuit. A thick envelope from a law firm, not the HOA, landed in our mailbox. Inside, a claim. Assault with a deadly weapon, emotional distress, property damage. The plaintiff? Victoria, the clipboard woman, now identified as an HOA board member. My hands shook as I read it. They were twisting the truth, painting me as the aggressor. Jensen's face darkened when I showed him. They're weaponizing the law, he said. They want to bankrupt you with legal fees. Our savings dwindled as we prepared to countersue, every dollar a stab at our future. Sarah barely slept, her eyes hollow with worry. What if we lose everything? She whispered one night. I promised we wouldn't, but doubt gnawed at me. One afternoon, I found survey stakes driven into our back field, pink tape fluttering 50 feet inside our property line. Printed on them, ESC, Private Development Division. A chill ran through me. A call to the county zoning office confirmed my worst fears. Evergreen Strategic Consolidations. A shadowy company had filed for a development permit, claiming our land as a common area for their expansion. They were redrawing maps to steal our ranch on paper. Jensen dug deeper and found rumors. Evergreen used fake HOAs to pressure landowners near valuable infrastructure, like the fiber optic lines recently laid near our road. Our ranch wasn't just a home. It was a target. The next blow came at dawn. I woke to Gus barking furiously. Outside, a pile of hay near our horse stables smoldered, flames licking higher by the second. Sarah grabbed the garden hose while I attacked the fire with a shovel, coughing through thick smoke. The fire department arrived just in time, but the hay was ash, and the barn's wall was charred black. The fire chief pointed to a trail of accelerant. "This was arson," he said grimly. No cameras caught the culprit, but I knew who was behind it. Victoria's smug face flashed in my mind. The sheriff warned, "They're escalating, Mark. Be ready." Ready for what? That question haunted me as I stood guard that night, rifle in hand, scanning the darkness. The HOA's petty rules had morphed into a calculated war fines, vandalism, arson, and now a corporate conspiracy. Each attack tightened the noose around our family, pushing us to the edge. But as I watched the stars above our ranch, I felt a shift. Fear was giving way to fury. They thought they could break us, but they didn't know me. They didn't know us. The flames danced wildly in the night, casting flickering shadows across our Texas ranch like demons unleashed from hell. The air reeked of gasoline and charred wood, the crackle of fire drowning out the distant howl of coyotes. I'd been on edge for weeks, every creak of the old farmhouse setting my nerves ablaze. But nothing prepared me for this. The peak of their ruthless campaign. The moment when petty HOA tyranny exploded into life-or-death chaos. Gus's frantic barking had jolted me from a fitful sleep, and now, rifle in hand, I crouched behind the barn, heart slamming against my ribs as I watched the intruders slink through the shadows. 3 of them, masked and purposeful, one clutching a crowbar, another a canister that glinted ominously under the moonlight. Victoria led them, her silhouette unmistakable even in the dark. Bandaged arm from our earlier clash swinging defiantly as she directed the sabotage. This wasn't just another harassment stunt. It was annihilation. Evergreen's corporate greed had fused with the HOA's power-drunk vendetta, turning our dream ranch into a war zone. They'd started with fines and forged signs, escalated to arson and lawsuits, but now, under cover of night, they aimed to burn us out completely. I could feel the weight of it all. The drained savings, Sarah's sleepless nights, the kids' innocent questions about why Daddy patrolled with a gun. Frustration had long boiled into anger, a seething fury at how these faceless bullies twisted laws to crush families like ours. As Victoria pried at the fence, whispering orders to her accomplices, I stepped out, rifle raised. My voice, though steady, carried the tremor of a man pushed to his limit. But they didn't flee. One accomplice, a burly figure I later learned was a hired enforcer with ties to Evergreen's shady operations, spun toward the house, igniting a flare and hurling it through the kitchen window. Glass shattered like thunder, flames erupting instantly, greedy tongues licking up the curtains and spreading across the wooden floors we'd refinished together as a family. Smoke billowed out, thick and choking, as the fire roared to life, illuminating the ranch in a hellish glow. My stomach lurched. Sarah and the kids were inside, vulnerable in their beds. The heat hit me like a wall, but terror fueled my sprint back to the porch. "Get to the panic room!" I bellowed into the inferno, the words raw in my throat. Sarah emerged from the smoke, coughing, Lily wailing in her arms, Ethan clutching her nightgown with wide-eyed horror. We bolted for the basement, the steel door we'd installed after the hayfire slamming shut behind us like a final barrier against the madness. Safe for the moment. But the blaze raged on, flames climbing the walls, threatening to consume everything we'd built. I couldn't let it. Grabbing a fire extinguisher from the panic room's supplies, I burst back upstairs, the heat blistering my skin, eyes watering from the acrid smoke. The lead intruder had climbed through the broken window, his face unmasked now, sweat slicked and twisted with malice, a pipe gripped in his fist like an improvised weapon. He was no stranger. Camera footage had captured him before. A thug paid to intimidate landowners who stood in Evergreen's way. His eyes locked on mine, a silent promise of violence as he charged, pipe swinging in a deadly arc. We collided in the heart of the blaze, the fire's roar amplifying every grunt and crash. He was bigger, fueled by whatever dark incentives Evergreen dangled. But I fought with the desperation of a cornered father. The pipe grazed my shoulder, sending a jolt of agony through me, blood soaking my shirt. I countered with a knee to his gut, hearing the air whoosh from his lungs as he doubled over. Flames nipped at our heels, the ceiling groaning under the heat, but vindication surged through me. This was the turning point, the moment I reclaimed control from their abuse. I wrested the pipe from his grasp, slamming it against his leg with a sickening crack. He howled, collapsing amid the debris, but scrambled for something in his vest, a taser crackling with electric threat. No more. The rifle, dropped in the scuffle, lay within reach. I snatched it up, aiming true as he lunged one last time. The shot echoed through the chaos, the bullet tearing into his thigh, spinning him back into the flames. Blood sprayed, mixing with the soot. As he writhed on the floor, his defiance shattered. Dragging him by the collar through the window to the lawn, I left him gasping, defeated, a symbol of the HOA's crumbling empire. But the fight wasn't done. Victoria, spotting her plan unraveling, raced toward the stables, another canister in hand, ready to torch our horses and seal our ruin. Her face, illuminated by the fire, was a mask of pure hatred, the petty tyrant exposed as a criminal mastermind. I pursued, legs burning from exhaustion and injury, the rifle heavy but unyielding. She spun at the stable door, flinging the canister inside. Flames ignited hay bales, horses screaming in terror as smoke filled the air. Frustration peaked into white-hot anger. This woman, with her clipboard inspections and forged liens, had orchestrated our nightmare, weaponizing rules to feed corporate greed. I fired a warning shot into the ground at her feet, dirt exploding in a plume. She stumbled, dropping to her knees, the canister rolling harmlessly away. For the first time, fear cracked her smug facade. Eyes wide, hands raised in surrender. Sirens pierced the night then, sheriff's lights slicing through the darkness as deputies swarmed the property, rifles drawn, commands barking over the din. "Freeze! Hands where we can see them!" The scene froze in surreal tableau. Victoria cuffed against the fence, her accomplices rounded up, the hired thug bleeding and babbling excuses as paramedics arrived. Firefighters battled the blazes, hoses unleashing torrents that hissed against the flames, saving what remained of our home. Sarah and the kids emerged from the panic room, ash-streaked and trembling, rushing into my arms amid the chaos. We clung together, the weight of survival crashing over us, tears mixing with soot, relief warring with the trauma etched into our souls. The sheriff approached, his face etched with grim respect. "Your cameras caught it all, Mark. The plotting, the arson, the assault. This exposes everything." As dawn crept over the scorched fields, reporters descended like vultures, helicopters thumping overhead, dubbing it the ranch siege. Leaked footage from my trail cams revealed the zoning officials' collusion, the fake environmental schemes, and Victoria's direct orders, proof that the HOA was a front for Evergreen's illegal land grabs. Vindication flooded me, a triumphant rush amid the ruins as arrests unfolded in real time. But as Victoria was hauled away, her glare promising retribution, a chilling realization hit. This climax had broken their hold, but shadows lingered. Evergreen's boardroom puppeteers remained untouched, their abuse of power not yet fully dismantled. The dawn light filtered through the haze of smoke still lingering over our Texas ranch, casting a soft glow on the charred remains of the kitchen and the blackened stable wall. The air was heavy with the scent of ash and wet earth, the firefighters' hoses having finally tamed the blaze that nearly consumed our home. Sarah clung to me, her arms wrapped tightly around Ethan and Lily, their faces streaked with soot and tears but alive, unharmed. The sheriff's deputies milled about, their radios crackling as they secured Victoria and her hired thug in handcuffs, their faces grim under the flashing lights. The black envelope, dropped in Victoria's desperate surrender, lay sealed in an evidence bag, its cryptic warning, "The HOA is only the beginning," burning in my mind. We'd survived the climax of their vicious campaign, but as the reporters' cameras flashed and helicopters buzzed overhead, I knew this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of justice. Sheriff Thompson approached, his boots crunching on the gravel, his expression a mix of exhaustion and resolve. "Mark, your cameras saved you," he said, holding up a flash drive. "The footage, Victoria's orders, the zoning officials' plot, the arson. It's all here. The Department of Justice is already moving. My trail cams had caught the smoking gun. A county official, bribed by Evergreen Strategic Consolidations, admitting to a fake environmental violation to seize our land. That video, combined with the night's chaos, was a bombshell. By noon, news vans lined the road, their headlines screaming, "Ranch Siege, Veteran Exposes, HOA Land Grab Conspiracy." The story went viral, shared across platforms like wildfire, our fight resonating with anyone who'd ever felt crushed by bureaucratic bullies. The days that followed were a whirlwind. The DOJ launched a full-scale investigation, tearing into Evergreen's operations. Arrests came swiftly. The zoning official, caught on tape, faced charges of fraud and bribery. Victoria, the HOA's venomous figurehead, was indicted for arson, attempted assault, illegal surveillance, and conspiracy. Her accomplice, the thug I'd shot, turned out to be a disgraced ex-mercenary with a rap sheet tied to land disputes across 3 states. He sang like a canary, trading names for a lighter sentence, exposing a network of hired muscle and shell companies Evergreen used to intimidate landowners. The HOA itself, a front for Evergreen's greed, was dissolved, its fake bylaws and forged liens declared null by a judge. We were awarded damages, enough to rebuild the kitchen, repair the stables, and shore up our savings, though no amount could erase the scars of those sleepless nights. But the real victory wasn't just ours. The media frenzy cracked open a floodgate. Families from across Texas and beyond came forward, their stories eerily similar. Mysterious HOA notices, vandalism, legal harassment, all tied to land near valuable infrastructure like fiber optic lines or energy reserves. Evergreen's scheme unraveled as lawsuits piled up, their executives scrambling to dodge subpoenas. A class action suit led by our lawyer Mr. Jensen united dozens of victims, forcing Evergreen into bankruptcy. Their CEO resigned in disgrace, his face plastered across news feeds as the mastermind of a corporate land grab. The ranch war, as the press dubbed it, became a symbol of resistance, a testament to what happens when ordinary people refuse to bow. For us, life on the ranch slowly reclaimed its rhythm, though the innocence of those early days was gone. Sarah baked her pies again, the sweet scent of blueberries filling the rebuilt kitchen, but her hands trembled slightly when she rolled the dough. Ethan stopped asking about losing the ranch, but he clung to me during evening walks, his eyes scanning the horizon for threats. Lily drew pictures of our horses, now safe in their restored stables, but added fences taller than the ones we had. I fortified the property. More cameras, tripwire alarms, a backup generator, because trust was hard to rebuild. Every creak of the house at night still sent my hand to the rifle, though the danger had passed. The scars weren't just physical. They were etched into our souls, a reminder of how close we came to losing everything. Yet amidst the trauma, there was triumph. The community rallied around us, neighbors we'd barely known dropping off casseroles, offering to mend fences, or just sitting with us on the porch, sharing their own stories of HOA overreach. Our pastor wrote a letter to the local paper, calling us a family that stood for what's right. The kids' teachers sent notes of support, and the town vet checked our horses for free, his quiet nod a gesture of respect. Elmswood, once just a backdrop to our dream, became a shield, its people proving that no corporation could break a united front. The ranch felt like ours again, not just a plot of land, but a legacy we'd fought to preserve. Mr. Jensen became more than a lawyer. He was a friend, stopping by with updates on the ongoing cases. "You didn't just save your ranch, Mark," he said one evening, sipping coffee at our new kitchen table. "You exposed a system that's been fleecing people for years." He was right. The DOJ's investigation expanded, uncovering similar scams in other states, leading to new laws tightening oversight on HOAs and land development permits. Our story sparked a movement, with online forums buzzing with hashtags like Ranch War and Stop Ho Bullies. Viewers left comments on our interview video, thousands strong, sharing their own battles and thanking us for giving them courage to fight back. But the black envelope haunted me. Its message hinted at deeper forces, players we hadn't yet unmasked. Jensen dug into Evergreen's parent company, tracing funds to offshore accounts, but the trail went cold. "Someone's still out there," he warned, his voice low. "They don't like losing." I nodded, staring out at the fields where Ethan and Lily now played under a rebuilt treehouse. The fear lingered, but it was overshadowed by a hard-earned resolve. We'd faced the worst: fines, fires, hired guns, and come out standing. No shadowy corporation could take that from us. Months later, as summer faded into fall, I sat on the porch with Ethan, the sunset painting the hills in fiery hues. He leaned against me, quieter now, his childhood innocence tempered by the ordeal. "Dad, are we safe now?" he asked, his voice small but steady. I looked out at the ranch, our ranch, its fences stronger, its spirit unbroken. "Yeah, buddy," I said, ruffling his hair. "We fought for this, and we won." He smiled, a flicker of the carefree boy returning, and ran off to join Lily by the creek. The long-term impact was undeniable. Our family was whole, our home secure, but we carried the weight of those dark months. The ranch was no longer just a dream. It was a fortress, a testament to what we'd endured. The world knew our story, and it changed things. Laws, communities, lives. But the powerful takeaway wasn't just about victory. It was about resilience. When faceless systems, greedy corporations, or petty tyrants try to crush you, you don't back down. You document, you fight, you expose. Because sometimes standing your ground means staring into the flames and refusing to burn. As I watched the kids chase fireflies under the starry sky, a question lingered, one I couldn't shake. Who else was out there? Watching from the shadows, waiting for their next move? The fight for our ranch was over, but the war against those who prey on dreams like ours, it's never truly done. "Will you stand up when they come for you?"